everyone, and welcome to the Intimate Talks interview series. I'm Asi Efros, and our special guest today is Ilona Shariga, a former banker and a founder of lingerie brand Ms Pomelo.
Who is your target audience? Who is she? What is her age? What is her socio-demographic situation? What does she like? What are her paids? What does she eat for breakfast? What kind of magazines does she read? What social platforms is she on? You want to live and breathe her life.
Hi, Ilona. So nice to have you with us today.
Hi, Asi. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about what lingerie brands have to know business-wise before they start their collections.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. I think if you think of a lingerie brand as a startup, not just as a whimsical fashion decision for somebody to entertain their hobbies on the side, but as a brand and as a startup, the core things that the founders must consider is the value proposition. And that means, in simple terms, what is the problem that you're looking to solve and what is your solution? Usually, you would expect to have a product offering which is 10 times better than what already exists in the market, because unless you come up with a brand new category of product, you have to take a market space from somebody else. And you have to think of it like this. What would it take for me to take some market share from Walmart? Or if you're playing on the upper scale, what would it take to take market share from the likes of Rigby Parlor? And that's exactly what you will be doing with your new proposition. Another very important point to think of before you go anywhere is who is your target audience, i.e., if we're talking lingerie, I presume we're talking about women. And who is she? What is her age? What is her socio-demographic situation? What does she like? What does she not like? What are her paids? What does she eat for breakfast? What kind of magazines does she read? What social platforms is she on? You want to live and breathe her life, because this is how you will be able to portray her image in your mind. And this is how you'll be able to craft your communication with your audience in a way that is effective and it really strikes a chord. That's what you want. Then let's talk about leg number 3, which is hugely important, is the initial investment that you want to make. And think of it like this. This is the capital outlay you need to pull together before you're able to generate any revenue, i.e., that's your revenue enabler. And before you even go anywhere, you want to think of it as your potential business model. Business model, in simple terms, is how will you make money? The how, the what, the why, the vertical chain of your organization. And the common wisdom is that you keep the core competences, the things that you really excel at, in-house, and everything else you outsource. So, for example, one of the very well-known brands, Third Love, has decided to keep the product and the marketing in-house, and everything else is outsourced. Now, let me talk about some cost categories. So first thing that is probably most important is the product. So who will design the product? What resources will go into designing the product? How will you manufacture it? Who will provide the fabrics? Where will the fabrics come from? What is the choice related to that delivery? You know, how will you get this delivered? The second, which is really marketing precedes the miracle, is the marketing concept, i.e., what is the whole spirit of your brand? What is the tone of voice? What are the ideas? What is the communication that you are pursuing? What is the imagery, the style of imagery, the colors, the fonts, the marketing campaign vectors? All of these things, they have to be thought well ahead of time before you decide to go and hit the market. Because without getting this right, it's unlikely that your marketing efforts will be truly effective. Now, the next category of costs you want to think of is the initial startup selection of assets, digital assets, blogging materials, just to get you started, something that you can get by during the initial phase, because you don't want to start there. You want to start with something. The next one, important, is the selling platform. Where will you be selling your product? Would that be on your website? Would that be on Etsy? Would that be on eBay? Whatever that is, there will be costs and setup costs attached to that. So if it's your website, then what is it? Is it a Squarespace? Would you be taking a template that already exists, or will you have some designs which will be custom made for you based on your idea? And there will be development costs going into that, design costs going into that. If it is a physical store, then there's rental involved, there's repairs involved, a whole caboodle of efforts involved in prepping that space before you can start and open. Now, next one, which is very important, is legal, because very often lingerie will have a brand name, and that will be your brand, and that will be the wording of the brand. So you want to register your IP as early as possible. That's absolutely key. Now, if you're trading, there will be terms and conditions attached to your trade. And there's a whole host of documents, little things like cookies documents and privacy documents that need to go on your website. So you want to have the legal team draft this up. Next one up is company setup. So whether we like it or not, we need to have some form of business entity. We need to make a choice of business entity, how we are trading. You want to think about setting up accountant. You want to have a bank account. In the UK, you want to set up for VAT or HMRC. In the US, I imagine it's something to do with SEC or any other reporting organizations. So that's company setup. And then in terms of brand marketing, you want to start making really early steps about marketing your brand, presenting your concept to the community through PR, through some experiential events where you get the exposure, you will meet the influencers, and you'll meet the community. So this is the absolute bare minimum you want to at least think about before you start. And sometimes we draw a blank on what costs would certain endeavors entail. One simple way to do this is to approach your potential counterparties and ask them for a quote. And you'd be really amazed at how much the range can change depending on the party you talk to. So it's not just a purely analytical exercise where you take the cheapest and you run with that. You may want to talk to a number of your potential providers, get comfort with them, maybe get them into situations where they show not just initial phase, but they show a bit of a character. And then depending on the comfort you develop with these providers, choose a quote, because it's very often startups are being compared to babies. It is your baby. It's like what you live and you breathe, you invest in it, and you want to put the best foot forward. Another question that often comes up while engaging different consultants or engaging different counterparties is they would like to ask you for equity. And question is, do I give them equity or do I hire them as a consultant? And I think the received wisdom is try to keep as much control as possible and only bring in people who you absolutely must have, because everybody else can work on a third party or arm's length arrangement. And another important suggestion I would make is early on, you want to identify people who you want to see sit on your advisory board. So these are luminaries from their respective fields who will help you with their opinions, with their knowledge, with their gravitas, with their network. And they will help you steer in the right direction. So in summary, this is not a small effort, but prepare that things will not go as you plan, and prepare to correct on them flexibly. So that rounds up the 3 legs of what you need to know. Now let's talk about the financial runway. And financial runway, in the simplistic terms, can be explained as the amount of funds you will need to run the business until you reach your goal. And everybody has a different goal. Somebody runs up towards a certain market share. Somebody wants to reach a certain revenue or profitability. One thing, and most important thing to know, is it's unlikely you'll get things done for free. unless it's your mom or it's your family or your friends. When you pull in the revenue, that means that you engage the resources, and resources come as a cost. So reasonability is one of the most important criteria for setting these costs. So if you produce your revenue, there must be a cost attached to that, and that cost better be squaring well with the market practices. Let me explain what I mean. So one of the biggest expenses for a startup lingerie brand would be marketing. Because you're starting out, you are reasonably unknown. You want to think well in advance about what your marketing will be. You want to do the research, understand the insights about your consumer. That's leg number one. This exercise have to have a budget attached to that and a timeline attached to that. Next one up is brand marketing, where you go to the market and you explain to the market what you are. There's another leg and the budget attached to that. Then you go into boosting marketing when you engage the AdWords, the social ads, the PR, the direct marketing, you name it, anything. And for example, when I work with an agency, we have agreed that no matter how much time we spend, I am unlikely to scratch the market share beyond 0.3%. So if your marketing projection show that you've spent X amount of money and you've reached a higher market share, that it will reach a big question mark in the eyes of the receiving audience. So before you put the numbers down, talk to a number of parties who have done this before, who are dealing with this market segment, and make sure that your costs fit that reasonability criteria. So that was marketing. Now let's talk about the product costs. Obviously, you want to know where will you get the product? How much will this product cost? You also want to know, in the context of shipping this product to a customer, what will be your shipping costs and return costs, because returns are really, really key. And if you're using procurement center, you want to go to the procurement center and ask them all about their cost structure and plans that they offer to new brands. Now, next one is team costs. Nothing happens in vacuum. Team is as key to your progress as possible. So you want to identify who you will keep as a core team, a permanent team, if you will, and who you will keep as a consultants who will work on a sort of third-party remote arrangement. Don't forget the customer service, because it's really, really key. And don't forget the outsourced consultants. Next one is our workspace costs. You will not work at home. You will not work in the garage. You need a team, and you guys need a space. So whether it's WeWork or it's something else, you want to know the budgets for all these options, and you want to weight them in your funding plan. Legal and finance costs. No matter what you do, you will need advisor. You will need some form of fallback into legal consultancy, whether it's IP, whether it's manufacturing agreement, whether these are NDAs, you name that. There's going to be a lot of help, but it's important to invest in these things, because it's much better not to make the mistakes that would be a lot costlier in the future. Speaking of accounting and financial reporting, every company, it's an absolute must. Regular reporting is a must. You need to report on payroll. You need to report your taxes. You need to file your VATs. In the US, probably it's a whole host of other things. Annual returns, all of this costs money. Their bookkeeping, it all costs money. So you want to reflect that in your budget. Transport, we all travel, whether it's locally, whether it's nationally or internationally. That needs to be also included in your plan. Things like phones and internet and infrastructure. If you're selling off the website comes with the regular updates that need to be done. There's a web hosting that you must pay for to be there. If you have migration of technology, you need to reflect that as well. If you have data scientists working on your data, you want to include those as well. If you're buying purchases, include that. If you do products and new products, product development costs must be there. Market research, industry events, you name it. So do arrange your costs as a matter of strategic priorities for you, because depending on what is the string of business you run, you'll put different strategic priorities on these lines. line them up and see if you didn't forget anything. Ask your friends and family and friends and consultants again, and you should be in a good shape. So that was financial runway. Now, sadly, or not so sadly, it's an expensive business proposition to run your lingerie or fashion brand. And there are names which are revered in the market. There's DVF, or there's Victoria Beckham, or there's even Agent Provocateur. And unfortunately, the news of financial struggles do come up on a regular basis. So please, just be aware that you want to be on top of the costs and you want to have a good idea of what these costs are before you venture into something as exciting as lingerie collection. Now, I would like to round up with what investors want to see in you when you're ready for an investment, because it's sort of flows in a logical connection. And once you start your lingerie brand, you are able to fund it at some point when you've proven the concept and you have proven yourself to be successful. So investors want to have a business that they understand. So if you are able to communicate that clearly, that's fantastic. If they're able to understand what you said and buy into that, that's even better. They also want to see the models that you have been able to prove on a small scale, because they want a proof of concept that they will be able to pull in the funds and scale it up. Then they're looking for exceptionalism, something I touched on before. You want your product to be 10 times better than the market, because that is a really good precondition that this product will warrant a place under the sun. They are also looking for an idea with an edge. Maybe you have very unusual margins. Maybe you have very new distribution channels. All these things count. And they want to see the team that has the grit, determination, and talent. And they also want to see the founder that knows the market and is really knowledgeable about the business. So that rounds up the scope of things that an investor would look in a potential investment. So you may want to think about these things also ahead of time, early in the game, to line yourself up to be in that territory. So that answers the first question of our discussion, which is, what do owners of the lingerie brands want to know before starting out? We all are very vulnerable. We want to make sure that our baby, that is the startup, does well. So, but it's a balance. It's a balance of trying, testing, experimenting, being brave, dealing with setbacks, but being open and being hopeful that you will get to where you want to go, because that the journey and the excitement is well worth it at the end.
Absolutely. Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. And I think this is like the perfect finale of our interview. Thank you so much, Ilona. I wish you so much success with your brand and with the factory, with your mother's factory. And by the way, would you like to tell us a little bit about what you do there?
Well, let me see. So Ms Pomelo is, we also started out as a plus size lingerie brand, and in London, and the focus was on educating women to choose well for themselves, so they can comfortably and confidently take a bra and fit it and wear it and enjoy life to its fullest. And I did this on the back of the manufacturing facility that my mom has, and she has always been involved in making of plus size lingerie. So the product was top notch, and I was very excited and confident that technically, at least, I'm in a good shape. And so the factory has existed. She spent her whole career in the field, and the factory focuses on plus size. It's a fairly flexible facility. They work with textiles that are locally produced, which are all OECOTAX certified. there's a fully integrated capability in a factory. There's product development, there's product testing, different styles, you name it. It's a nice little compact outfit that she has, and so far we have developed, I think, 5 new styles ever since I've started my startup. But she has her own new product that she does for her factory. So I've seen the full cycle through kind of complete, and I'm comfortable with what is going on so far. Where we go from there, I don't know, but I have interesting plans for this facility, especially in the context of the whole of the sewing business being now digitalized and automated, and it's a brave new world out there. It's long waiting to happen, I would say. We'll see.
Wonderful. Well, I would love to know more, and hopefully we can continue our interviews, because everything you talk about is extremely interesting and needed for lingerie industry. So
Asi, I'd love to share everything I know, because I believe in the power of sharing, and we should be an open community. There's no point of holding back. It doesn't work like that.
absolutely,
Right.
I agree 100%. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you find the content helpful, please like the video, comment, and subscribe to the channel to see more videos from the Intimate Talk interview series. I'm Asi Efros. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.